again, this is Dr. Kevin Connors, and we're interviewing Dr. Brady Wirick. Brady, tell us a little bit about your practice, where you're located, and what kind of practice you specialize in.
Awesome. My practice is at Intermountain Regenerative Medicine. We are in Idaho Falls, Idaho, which is the southeast corner of Idaho. We're about 3 hours north of Salt Lake City. Our practice specializes in regenerative medicine and stem cell therapy, where we do injections for folks that have osteoarthritic joints and other inflammatory conditions that we help them get and maintain control of those degenerative conditions and help them avoid joint replacement surgery.
Okay, great. Well, that's very rewarding, I'm sure.
It absolutely is.
We've talked before, and you said that, some of the other issues that you deal with is that you want to try to help a person holistically. They come in with knee pain or something like that, but the more that you could do from a nutritional standpoint and an environmental standpoint, the better results you're going to have. So today I want to ask you some questions about electromagnetic frequencies that are harmful to us, like for cell phone towers. Tell me give me a brief overview of what those are and why we should be careful of those.
So electromagnetic field is a fancy way of saying radiation. Electrons given off by a source from things that, I'm not going to say they shouldn't be giving off these electrons, but they do. And they're rated in sequence of how powerful of radiation they emit. For example, it is common knowledge that an X-ray machine emits radiation, and that radiation can actually cause cells to alter their DNA, damaging the cells and growing into tumorous problems. So people are intimately familiar with going to the dentist, getting X-rays, and when they're there at the dentist, they have to put that big lead apron on to protect the vital organs. So that is on the far end of this electromagnetic radiation spectrum. Well, there are a lot of things that are in our lives that are generally accepted as safe, even though they do still emit radiation frequencies. For example, we all carry one in our pocket. We all have one. Electronic devices, laptop computers, cell phone towers, 5G networks, cell phone networks. I'm looking out into the field here to the west of my office, and I can see those big green electrical boxes. They're going to be emitting some sort of EMF. The more electronics that we jam into our cars, the more EMFs are going to be present. And if these aren't harmonized EMFs, they're actually very harmful. Because we give ourselves a low dose of these things on a daily basis, and people just aren't aware of what's going on and what they're subjecting their cells to. So this all, I've known about these for a long time. I've been a big believer in putting devices on our phones and on our laptops, and that will help and harmonize some of those electromagnetic frequencies. But it didn't really dawn on me until it was actually pretty recently that I came across a study talking about the effects of electromagnetic fields and stem cell therapy, because I was looking for information on how can I help get my patients the absolute best results. And I came across a paper that was titled "The Effects of EMF and Stem Cells," and it went into really good detail about what the harm and the good that they can cause. So when it comes to EMFs, there's either harmful EMFs or there's beneficial EMFs. The beneficial EMFs are going to come from things like pulse electromagnetic field therapy, beamer machines, etc. They're going to emit a positive EMF that can actually help your own stem cells to proliferate. Then there are other things such as your cell phone, your microwave oven, all these other electronic devices in our lives. They emit a harmful EMF, which basically can lead to cell damage and cancer.
I saw interesting data recently that said of all the research papers that are out there, because that's the argument whether, some people say, well, these aren't harmful. That's a bunch of conspiracy theory. But there's hundreds and hundreds of research papers out there. And the interesting thing that I just read was 72 or 73% of the independent research that was done showed that 73% of those showed that cell phone radiation was harmful to the body. And only like 32% of the sponsored, meaning it was sponsored by Verizon or AT&T or something like that.
Right.
So they just didn't publish the studies that showed negative effects. And that's what you see with pharmaceutical companies too. They'll send out their drug to be studied by 32 universities. Well, if 23 of them come back and say, well, it didn't work, they just won't publish those studies.
Right, absolutely.
And then
why would they?
Yeah, so that's how they protect themselves, and then they publish the studies that, maybe the 3 universities that came back with very positive results, and those are the ones that they send to the FDA for verification and approval. And that's what we're seeing, as the pseudoscience. It's real science, but the problem is that when anything doesn't, fit what their agenda is, then it just won't get published and it won't get submitted.
Right. Get swept under the rug.
It's swept under the rug.
So the particular article that I'm referring to, Kevin, it's on my website. If you go to imregen.com/resources, the very top article that's there is the one that I've been referencing. And it was I think we could consider this one to be an independent study where they looked at previous papers that had been written and came up with the conclusions based on those particular papers. But what really stuck out to me is at the very bottom, they put a note in here. It says at the very bottom of page 11 or page 10, it says, as a side comment, the number of cancer patients in our society is growing alarmingly. According to the environmental health specialists, besides chemical pollution, this condition may be triggered by EMF exposure, but further studies are therefore required to explore this phenomenon, both in vitro and in vivo. We believe that EMF-based therapeutic applications may be used in the future for regenerative medicine approaches as well as in the fight against cancer. So, these particular authors are very much in favor of using EMF as a regenerative therapy modality.
And
but they're also...
Let's clarify what that is. So when you talk about using positive EMFs, you're talking about using pulsed electromagnetic field therapy.
Correct.
You're talking about using Rife therapy.
Absolutely.
And those are the positive EMFs that are synced with your body's frequency in order to help regenerate your body, versus these damaging EMFs that are coming from cell phone towers or dirty electricity and
Absolutely.
high power lines and your cell phone use that are damaging and influencing your cells. And most people don't realize that, we all are simply energy that is vibrating at a specific frequency. Right. So we could disrupt that with these aberrant energy sources that affect us negatively.
Absolutely. The way I explain it to patients all the time is if you look at us, our entire body is made up of systems. And those systems are made up of different organs. Those organs are made up of different tissue. The tissue is made up of different cells. The cells are made up of different atoms. And what are the atoms made out of?
Yeah.
They're made out of energy.
Period.
So if you take the therapeutic forms of energy, and we're going to use Rife and we're going to use PEMF for our example. If you apply those, then you can recharge the state of the cell and help them to grow, help them to proliferate. Or if you use the wrong kind of energy, or if you're surrounded by this dirty EMF from cell phones, circuit breakers, etc., that can actually be detrimental to the cell's DNA, leading to cancerous lesions.
Yeah. Very scary, isn't it?
It is. Like, I'm looking at this article again that I've referenced, and at the bottom of page 2, there's a great schematic that says, it talks about the biochemical and the biophysical stimuli that is applied to a stem cell. Now, I think it's important here that we say that a stem cell is your body's own reparative mechanism. You and I we all have stem cells that your body holds in reserve to help you to regenerate throughout your life. But when we expose those stem cells to different stimuli, if they're good, they're going to go down the green smiley face pathway, which leads to wound healing, regeneration, desired differentiation, desired growth, and homeostasis. Or if we look at the abnormal or aberrant EMF stimuli, they can go down the red frowny face pathway that leads to carcinogenesis, which is cancer, pathological growth, undesired differentiation, teratoma formation, and degeneration.
Yeah, that's where you talk scary. We're going to put a link to that article I'm looking at. I pulled it up as you gave me that your website address there. It's right on your website. It's IAMREGEN.com. And then you go to the resources under stem cells, and you'll see that article is your first article, at least the first one you have listed there. Boy, so you talk about trying to heal somebody's knee, and you're using stem cells to heal their knee, and then they're, hyper exposed to EMFs via whatever constant cell phone use or dirty electricity in their house or smart, a bank of smart meters, right below them in their apartment building. It's going to affect their healing ability and the benefit of those stem cells turning into the type of cells that are going to actually heal that meniscus.
Right.
Boy, it's scary. I mean, what are some things people can do? I mean, you can't move to, a place that doesn't have cell phone service. I mean, we are kind of tied to our cell phones. Over the last 10 years, all of us have basically married our cell phones. How can you still live in this world and function and give some level of protection?
So the cheap, easy, free ways are to spend some time away from your devices. For me personally, my cell phone cutoff time is 9 p.m., where my cell phone goes into a different room than the one that I sleep in. And I will not look at my cell phone until well into my morning routine.
Well, that could be good for us emotionally as well, right?
Absolutely. So it gives us a break. The other thing is time outside. Grounding is a big deal, where you go the act of actually going out and putting your feet on the dirt, not with shoes, but actually grounding yourself to the earth is very, very beneficial. The example I think of is I'll on occasion find myself in Santa Monica. I love the beach there, and I love putting my feet in the sand, just because you actually ground yourself to the earth's resonance frequency. And if you want to go down another wormhole, look up Schumann's wave. There's more fascinating stuff there. But you can ground yourself that way. There are commercially available products that help harmonize the EMFs coming off your phone. There's commercially available products that can neutralize EMFs in an entire building. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. Using Rife as a therapeutic activity tool is something. Using PEMF as a therapeutic. The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
I'll give you a specific example, and I wish I would have brought it in here with me. But one of the products that we carry is called the Whole Home Harmonizer. I had a woman visit with me about her seizures, and every time her son would rev up an electronic device, in this particular case, it was a remote control car. The EMF emitted from that car would send her into a seizure. Oh, goodness. So we took this Whole Home Harmonizer, and I did a little experiment. I brought it in, and when she would walk into our office, she could feel the EMFs in our office. It was, you've seen cases like this before, that the medical community just blows these people off as crazy, but it's a real thing. So I brought in one of the harmonizers, and I just set it by the front desk. I didn't tell her. And at the end of her visit that day, I just asked her, I said, do you feel something, what's different? And she goes, something's calmer in here. Anyway, long story short, she took that harmonizer, put it in her purse, and she carries it in her purse everywhere she goes, because it helps block some of those EMF frequencies for her to have more of a normal life.
Right.
So there are products that are available that are very, very good at helping protect you from those EMFs.
Right. That product, we use that same thing. It's Hedron brand.
That's it. Yep.
And they make a pendant, which is smaller than the home harmonizer. So people that are more sensitive to EMFs, I know there's 4 genes. If you have defects on those genes, you're going to be more sensitive. If you have chronic Lyme disease or something like that, you're going to be more sensitive. If you have a chronic illness, a cancer, you're going to be more sensitive. So you need to take even greater precautions. But in order to prevent those diseases, you want to take greater precautions. So there's things that you can do. Put things on your cell phone, keep your cell phone away, turn your Wi-Fi off at night.
Yep.
Maybe try living without a Wi-Fi. Just use plug-in, internet. That can help. There's a lot of real danger just because you don't necessarily, feel it. It could cause disease and cause ill health and cause a decrease in healing ability and an increased rate of aging. And especially when we talk about dementia, the rate of dementia increase and Alzheimer's increase is going through the roof, and that's certainly a piece of it as well. So the more you can do to prevent that, the better.
Absolutely.
Any closing thoughts on EMFs and anything else you do with your patients?
I think you hit it on the head when it's something that they absolutely ignore.
Yeah.
Because it is for 99% of people, you can't feel it, you can't sense it. Even when you put these devices on yourself or on your phone, you still don't see a big difference. So people, it's hard for them to accept that something's actually helping them.
Right, exactly. Well, thanks so much, Dr. Brady. I'm going to share your website so we make sure that people get to that. IAMREGEN.com. You'll find a load of information. You have a lot of great patient information there. And the article you're referring to is How Electromagnetic Fields Can Influence Adult Stem Cells, Positive and Negative Impacts. Of course, talking about the positive impacts with things like Rife and PEMF, and the negative impacts, things like cell phones. We'll have you on again. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.